last full day here in Massachusetts, and we went back to Boston downtown to see Trillium Brewery. A lot of people told us that was a really cool place. We'll see you there.
Here's the thing, so we're just visiting some friends here, but every single one of them told us to come here.
Nice.
I mean, I love beer, and your menu's intimidating.
It is. Two of my favorite beers that we have on here are the Saisons. So the Free Rise and the Saison Duro.
I got you. Which one do you like better?
I'd probably say the Duro is a little more classic, like it's a little more like really classic Saison. But the Free Rise is dry hop, so it has that nice fruitiness from the Mosaic hops.
All right, I'll try your Duro.
Duro? Cool.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Again, that's a super intimidating beer menu. I like beer, but where do I begin?
Thank you.
Do I leave this?
Yeah,
No,
please do.
right?
Thank you very much.
You got it, guys.
Saison Duro. Saison's a farm ale. Usually they made with whatever leftover grains were still there after the harvest season. It's farmer's beer, essentially. It's good. It's really light, but it's pretty strong. It's like 7.3 ABV. So it's on the higher end for alcohol content. It's good. Easy drinker. Taste the hops, a little bitter. Storrowed IPA, double IPA, citrus and strata. So there's a place in Boston, there's a word, storrowed. It's when a truck is too big to go under a bridge and it hits the top of the bridge. And you see those videos on YouTube and everything of the trucks being too big and it tears the top off them. Well, that's here in Boston. It happens every day. It happens so often. They actually named a beer after it, and the word for that happening is storrowed. So I don't know if this is gonna wreck me or what. Very easy. It's very red. It's very sweet too. This is the Faded Farmer Malbec and Black Muscat. So they're both grapes, and this is one of their sours. It's very sweet, like very sharp raspberry sour flavor almost. Tingly on the tongue, even though the carbonation isn't very high. Very thin. It coats the tongue in a good way. It doesn't linger, and you can taste zero alcohol in it. They're good for easy afternoon drinking, especially under a hot sun. We're on our way to Quincy Market and Faneuil Hall. We just stumbled upon the Sam Adams Brewery. It almost seems destined.
Oh,
I don't think there's any seats at the bar, but there's these cool seats right next to them. So we're at Sam Adams Tap Room, or they call it the Boston Tap Room. Right in the middle of downtown Boston, right next to Faneuil Hall and Quincy Market. So we did a little tasting. So I got the Brewer Patriot Ale. The cool thing about this is Boston Tap Room exclusive. So they only have it here, only place you can get it. This one actually has a strain of, let me see if I can pronounce this correctly, Lapsang Souchong tea strain that was thrown overboard the night of the Boston Tea Party. It's like drinking a little piece of history.
is it good?
It's excellent, actually. It's a little sweet. It's kind of smoky. It's really good, though. This place is really cool, too. So they have kettles behind us, kettles next to us. All the barrels are barrels they actually used to age on them. The only reason I know that because they have dates and varietals on the barrels themselves, which is really cool. And it's a clean room. I'm super jealous. We have a long night ahead of us, so I'm just going to go very slow and easy today. So we're going to wander around here for a little bit longer, and then we are meeting up for a haunted, historic pub crawl. It's supposed to be the third best tour in the entire country. So expectations are high. we'll see what happens. Cheers.
This haunted pub crawl takes us to 3 of Boston's most historic bars with dark histories. We'll also be taking you to some historic landmarks along the way, which are all right in the heart of Boston.
This is where they used to hang people, also where they hung witches. So we started at the 21st Amendment Bar. This is one of the oldest buildings in Boston. Originally, it was a men's-only establishment, so a lot of stories are told that it does not like women because women are not accepted there.
And as you can imagine, the most haunted place in the whole bar is the women's restroom. And it is said that there is a very heavy presence there, as if women still are not welcome in that building. A lot of strange things happen in the women's restroom, apparently.
And women are the only one that get haunted there.
Strange.
On the way to our next pub, we came across the Boston Athenaeum. It's one of the oldest privately owned libraries in the country. This place is absolutely renowned, not just for all of its books, but one in particular, one written by James Allen, who was a convicted criminal, and upon his death, he confessed all of his crimes in a book he wrote, and he requested that it be bound in his own skin. They used the flesh from his back. Why? So the book had a spine.
Ha! As we kept walking, we passed by the Boston Common, which is also one of the most famous historic areas in Boston.
So in Boston Common, this is where they hung pirates, Quakers, thieves, murderers, criminals, witches. It's unknown how many people were actually executed here, but some of their graves are in the thousands. So it's pretty amazing. One important historical figure was Mary Dyer. She was one of the 4 original Quakers that were hung there, which started the movement to create our First Amendment.
And as we keep walking, just a few blocks away, we get to Park Street Church, also known as Brimstone Church.
The Brimstone Church was nicknamed this for 2 reasons. One, because the very eccentric pastor at the time was very accustomed to using fire and brimstone to impose fear in his sermons. Also, they used to store munitions in the bottom of the church during the War of 1812.
It is also said to stand on top of what used to be a burial ground. The bodies have been relocated now and are in an actual burial ground, which we will get to later. But that's what makes it even more creepy and haunted.
After a short walk, we finally made it to our second destination, the Hub Pub.
This one is also known as the Robbery Bar because it is situated in between 2 establishments that resulted in deaths because of robbery.
On one side of this bar, an old bank. On the other side, a jewelry store. Both were attempted robberies gone wrong that ended up in murder. One due to suffocation, being stuck inside the vault. The other due to an altercation with the owner of the establishment that resulted in one of their deaths. Both places say they still hear and see apparitions in the buildings. Interesting place. Not the best place to hang out at night.
Yeah. Next, we arrive at the King's Chapel Burying Ground, which is the very first graveyard in Boston.
Built next to the King's Chapel Church, there are 505 headstones here with well over 1,000 bodies buried underneath. During the time, they started stacking up bodies because they built buildings over existing graveyards.
And it is said that this area is very, very haunted, full of lost souls looking for their resting place because they don't have a headstone. And our last stop before our third pub is the Tremont Temple Baptist Church.
Cool thing about this is the first place in the country that Charles Dickens publicly read A Christmas Carol. Also said to have a wooden door somewhere in the church that when you knock, it knocks back. They don't know why, but this has been many accounts of this happening throughout the years. So they think perhaps there was some injustice done in this room. The original door still remains and apparently still knocks.
And finally, we arrive at our third and last pub, which is called the Beantown Pub. It is located in front of the Granary Burying Ground, which also has a very eerie story.
So this burial ground is home to many famous historical figures throughout time, from John Hancock to Paul Revere, Sam Adams, James Otis. It was really cool. Once we got to this place, the first thing we were told that this is the only place in the world where you could drink a cold Sam Adams while looking at a cold Sam Adams, which is really funny because his grave is adjacent to the bar and you can see it from the inside, which was pretty interesting.
Also, located near the central obelisk where Benjamin Franklin's parents are buried is what they call the infant's tomb. Hundreds of babies were buried here.
We wish we went into the cemetery, but it was very late at night and we were 4 pubs in already, and we didn't want to take anything home with us from the cemetery, if you know what I mean.
And next to Sam Adams' grave is a grave marker for the victims of the Boston Massacre.
Very large cemetery, very rich history, very good beer as well.
Across the cemetery, not in the cemetery. Another interesting fact about the Beantown Pub is that it was said that Sam Adams and Paul Revere themselves used to hang out at this very bar.
This place is so old that Paul Revere and Sam Adams actually hung out there when they were alive. Just imagine how old that is. Now that is a cool piece of history. A couple of drinks and a couple ghost stories later, we met up with our tour group in the bar for a couple cold ones before we called it a night.
This was a very interesting and fun experience. We definitely recommend that you try it as well. We booked with Nightly Spirits and they do their tours daily.
It was awesome. $25. It didn't include drinks, but the tour was well worth it. Highly recommended. And there's a few other states they do it in as well.
We hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe somewhere there around. And we post videos every Wednesday, so see you at the next video. Bye!
Bye. Okay, see you.